Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're jumping right into a microscopic adventure. We're going to unpack the fascinating, completely unseen science behind exactly how we detect and recognize the incredibly diverse world of smells around us. It's a journey that bridges chemistry, biology, and human perception, and it happens literally every single time you take a breath. By the end of this, you're going to figure out exactly how invisible molecules are translated by your brain into the scents you love and, well, the ones you hate too. So, picture this. You're walking down the street, totally minding your own business, and boom, you catch a whiff of something that just stops you in your tracks. Right? Maybe it's the smell of fresh bread from a bakery around the corner, or the scent of rain on dry pavement. You instantly recognize that smell before your eyes even saw a single pastry or a drop of water. How on earth does that happen? To bring this down to earth, think about a standard bag of bath bombs proudly labeled lavender and vanilla. If you are completely blindfolded and just open the bag, your body instantly knows what's inside. But seriously, how? How does our body take invisible, weightless air and turn it into the very real, conscious perception of smelling a flower and a sweet baking spice?
Well, let's look at what makes an odor in the first place. Welcome to the chemistry of scent.
Now, this is where it gets kind of wild. Think about sweet, comforting vanilla compared to sharp, pungent vinegar. If we break these down into their basic chemical building blocks, we'd find something pretty shocking. They're actually both made up of the exact same basic types of atoms: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Seriously. But obviously, nobody is ever going to confuse the smell of a vanilla cupcake with a bottle of white vinegar. So, if they have the exact same basic atoms, why do they smell so incredibly different? Here is the fundamental rule of scent. Odor is a specific property of a substance. And it's not just about the type of atoms in there. The unique odor of any substance is determined by three interconnected factors: the exact number of atoms, the type of those atoms, and, this is the really big one, their specific architectural arrangement. It's this exact structural arrangement that gives a substance its unique molecular identity. It's kind of like building blocks, right? You can use the exact same pieces to build a tiny house or a tall tower. In chemistry, that specific structure completely dictates its unique smell. So let's trace how that structure gets to us. It's time for the journey to your nose, or the flight of the molecule. This quote really hits the nail on the head. Molecules of substances must travel into our nose in order for us to detect an odor from them. I mean, when you think about it, this is a pretty profound realization. Smelling isn't just some invisible magic trick acting in a distance. It requires physical matter. When you smell that lavender bath bomb, actual microscopic pieces of that substance, real molecules, are breaking off, floating through the air, and making a physical journey straight into your nasal passages. You are physically taking in a tiny piece of your environment. And because smelling involves pulling physical molecules into our bodies, scientists actually have to be super careful when interacting with unknown substances. That's why in a science lab, you never ever just stick your nose directly into a vial. Instead, we use a technique called wafting. You hold the vial about 6 inches away, and you just use your hand to gently scoop or wave the air directly toward you. This safely moves those traveling molecules toward your nose without overwhelming your sensory system with a massive, potentially harmful dose of physical matter. Okay, so the molecules have broken off, flown through the air, and you've wafted them directly into your nasal cavity. What happens next? Let's zoom in on receptors and nerve signals, essentially the biological lock and key. Deep inside our nasal cavity, we have these incredibly specialized cells called sensory receptors. Basically, they're the ultimate welcoming committee. But they aren't just generic. Our nose contains a ton of different sensory receptor cells, and each one has a highly specific structure. They are literally just waiting for a specific, distinctively shaped molecule to arrive. I absolutely love this concept. It's known as the lock and key mechanism, and it's entirely based on physical shape. Remember how we learned that a molecule's specific arrangement of atoms gives it a unique shape? Well, that uniquely shaped scent molecule acts as a key. It floats through your nose until it bumps into a sensory receptor with the exact matching shape, the lock. Shape dictates the fit. If the shape doesn't match, nothing happens. But when that physical fit is perfect, it's exactly like turning the key in the ignition. The moment that perfect fit happens, it kicks off a rapid-fire biological cascade. Step 1, the molecule enters your nose. Step 2, it fits perfectly into that specific receptor structure. Step 3 is where the real magic happens.
That physical connection instantly causes the sensory cell to fire off an electrical signal to connecting nerve cells. And finally, step 4, those nerve cells act like high-speed fiber optic cables, relaying that specific signal directly up into your brain. This entire chain reaction happens in a fraction of a millisecond.
Which brings us to the final, most complex stage of the journey, your brain's scent profile and making sense of the signals. See, most of the things we smell out in the real world aren't just one single type of molecule. A scent like lavender is incredibly complex. When you smell it, you aren't just unlocking one single sensory receptor. You're likely triggering several different types of receptor cells simultaneously. It's kind of like a pianist pressing down on multiple keys at once to play a rich chord. A whole symphony of distinct chemical signals is being fired off all at the exact same time.
And this is where the human brain really shows off. The final perception of different scents is entirely the result of the combination of signals that the brain receives. Your brain takes all this complex input, multiple unique nerve signals firing at once, and processes it. It synthesizes this specific combination in real time. You don't consciously perceive the individual isolated signals. Your brain perfectly blends them into one unified, familiar, and vivid experience. Bam, you perceive lavender.
From the specific arrangement of atoms forming a molecule, to its flight through the air, to that perfect biological lock and key fit in your sensory receptors, and finally, the complex combination of signals synthesized by your brain, the act of smelling is an absolute scientific marvel. So the next time you step outside or walk past a bakery, I want you to ask yourself, what invisible chemical worlds are floating right under your nose today, just waiting to be unlocked? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep asking questions about the amazing world around you.